Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to our session. Today, we're going to be talking about accelerating SAP S/4HANA with cloud automation on AWS. And specifically, we're going to talk about how you can achieve speed, scale, and smarter SAP automation. I'm Andrew Hayden. I'm the Principal Product Marketing Manager for the Automate products here at Precisely, and I will be your host today. And I have the great pleasure of being joined by Sneha Venkamametti from AWS. And she is the Senior Manager for Partner Solutions Architecture, and really excited to have her here. So Sneha, would you take a moment and just introduce yourself and talk a little bit about sort of you, what your role is, and what your team does at AWS, especially for SAP teams?
Awesome. Thanks so much, Andrew. It's a great pleasure to co-present with you. And a little bit about myself. I've been with AWS and Amazon for the last 13 years. And I've started my journey as being a cloud support engineer and led different support teams and established different support teams for the first 8 years of my time at AWS. And the last 5 years, I've been supporting Partner Solutions Architect org. I support a team of specialists that specialize on accelerating different workloads, specialized workloads or foundational workloads from on-premises, from different cloud service providers onto AWS. And that includes Windows workloads, .NET workloads, mainframe workloads, VMware workloads, and SAP. So I have a specialist team for SAP and their partner solution architects that work with partners like you all to build jointly engineered solutions that will help customers and SAP customers to accelerate their migration and modernization journey on AWS. And we work directly with customers and SAP to ensure, we have the right tools and services and systems in place to help accelerate SAP workloads onto AWS.
Wonderful. And again, I'm so glad that you're here because I think this is going to be a great session to help people really get a handle on how they can improve their modernization efforts in their SAP environment. So what are we going to talk about today? Well, first of all, I'm going to talk a little bit about what we call the CXO's dilemma, kind of all the stuff that's going on that is affecting your business overall, and especially around your IT environment and this whole modernization effort. And we're going to talk about, especially when you get into SAP, some of those specific challenges that we've seen from customers, that our survey data has seen from customers. And many of these are ones that are either hidden or people just aren't as aware of them as they go into that modernization activity and effort. Then I'm going to turn it over to Sneha. She's going to talk more about what AWS and SAP, or AWS and SAP in the cloud, apologies. And then I'll come back, talk a little bit more about Precisely Automate and how we can accelerate that journey as well and help you not only through that modernization effort, but then once you've made that modernization to S/4HANA, the ongoing ability for us to really drive efficiencies into your SAP environment through automation, through a no-code, low-code platform. Then we'll just take some questions and wrap it up from there. All right, let's get started. I look for the button to push. So when we talk about the CXO's dilemma, it really, in many ways, falls down to some very complex challenges in the world today and in their overall businesses. One is just simply the business environment. We live in this extremely disrupted business environment that has a lot of uncertainty to it. And it's anything from geopolitical factors that can really change things in terms of what your costs are there tariffs going to be imposed, what are currency conversions and currency rates, interest rates, to other external factors like supply chain disruptions. A ship gets caught in the Suez Canal or a lock gets stuck in Panama somewhere, and suddenly your supply chain is very disrupted. So CXOs are all dealing with that. And on the IT side of it, CIOs are the ones responsible for the data that actually kind of has to handle all these things and needs to be agile and address them. Then you've got AI. So artificial intelligence came on, it's been around for a long time, but it really has come on strong in the last few years. And I think there's a lot of emphasis top down on the need to adopt artificial intelligence. But the reality that we've seen is that it's not as efficient or effective as it was promised. There was a study that came out last year, I think from MIT, that found that only 5% of AI initiatives have actually ever gone into production, and there's still some question about the value that people are seeing from it. And so you have this great deal of pressure on senior level executives to look at AI as being kind of the next big thing. But the question is, what does that actually look like as we implement it in our organizations? And then on the IT side of it, you've got this SAP modernization from ECC to S/4HANA, which is consuming significant resources. There's a company called Horvath, which is a systems integrator out of the Middle East, and they did research among their clients and beyond, and found that about 60% of these SAP modernization and migration programs are either delayed or they're over budget or both. Now, what it means is these are just sucking up a massive amount of resources within our organization, both financially and in terms of what the people involved with it. And for many of these organizations, and especially your CIOs, that SAP modernization is at the heart of a broader IT modernization. And this is where companies like AWS become extremely important, because as we go through that modernization, we are moving to the cloud. We are not just moving SAP to the cloud, but we're moving most of our other systems as well. And the effort to clean up that data, transform that data, migrate that data is just a massive undertaking. So all of these things are challenges that our C-level executives are dealing with. And when you think about it, what this creates then is this tension between today and tomorrow, because today you have to maintain business continuity. You have to be able to continue to operate despite the fact that you may have long IT lead times, or you may have these a myriad of manual processes which are slowing things down and creating bad data. You've got expensive on-prem IT infrastructure, which is where this move to cloud and AWS comes in and can be very handy in helping you really get beyond that and achieve your cloud first IT goals. And then fragmented and poor quality data. And this is where Precisely can come in and help you gain that high integrity, high quality, trusted data you need in order to operate in that modern world that we're talking about. So that when you get to the age of tomorrow, if you will, and go through your modernization effort, you have agile innovation in your IT environments. You do have scalable automation throughout. And when I talk about Precisely Automate, I'll give you a sense of what we mean by that. Cloud first IT infrastructures as well, and then that high integrity data, as I mentioned. Now, what this also, though, when you're going through the SAP modernization, we talked about this high cost of modernization. Complexity is a big issue, and when we did surveys with SAP users through in conjunction with ASUG, so the American SAP User Group, 63% identified the complexity of the business process as being really a barrier to adopting automation. SAP processes are very complex. There's a lot of steps, there's a lot of data that goes into them. I mean, you think about a material record, and it's got about 300 data objects or data elements in an individual material record on average, and that takes 6 to 8 steps across multiple parts of your organization in order to create that record. Huge amount of complexity there. Automating it can be a challenge. In addition to the cost and time that it takes to make that migration step, it can take up to 6 years according to ASUG. So ASUG did some research and they found that on average it's anywhere from 1.5 to 2 years that it takes, but up to 6. And you think about the amount of resources going into this and how long that can take. I ran into a customer a while back. I'm going to say about a year ago, and they were migrating. They had 8 ECC systems. They're migrating into a single instance of S/4HANA. 2 of those ECC systems were legacy systems from their parent company. They were able to migrate those pretty quickly. The other 6 systems were ones they'd gained through acquisition. So they all were very different systems. They all had their data formatted differently. Their processes were different. They had different custom SAP transactions and all kinds of things. That's where their time was going to be taken up. So that 6-year time frame actually for companies like that isn't that unusual. I personally don't think. 4 or 5 years is not strange. We talked about cost overruns. ASUG found that 35% are over budget. And then when you're going through that transition, like the company I just mentioned, you're often dealing with these mixed UI environments, so user interfaces, where you're going from the SAP GUI in ECC to Fiori and the web GUI in S/4HANA. but you've got those mixed environments where you have both ECC and S/4HANA working at the same time, and you've got users trying to figure out which ones to go through. And again, when you look at a platform like Precisely Automate, where you can give those users a consistent user interface, so you don't have to deal with training, change management, a number of other things. So these are some of the things when we talk about that CIO's dilemma and the complexity that companies are going through as they modernize. This is what we want to be able to help you address. AWS and Precisely both look at these things and go, these are things we can really, really help you, or the challenges we can help you overcome. So I'm going to turn it over to Sneha, and she's going to talk to you a little bit about kind of what AWS and SAP look like in terms of cloud. Sneha?
Awesome. Thank you so much, Andrew, for that really great overview that you gave of the modernization challenges we're all facing. As you highlighted, many organizations struggle with SAP modernization complexity and then cost. This is exactly why I think partnerships between AWS, SAP, and partners like Precisely have been so transformative for our customers. So what you see here on the slide is really speaks for the 17 years AWS and SAP have been pioneering solutions together, always working backwards from real customer challenges. Our collaboration started back in 2008 when SAP was looking for purpose-built infrastructure to run their SAP HANA workloads. And during this process, SAP and AWS have delivered multiple cloud-first solutions. Let me walk you through how this partnership has evolved to solve some of your most pressing challenges. Between 2008 and 2012, I would call that as more like a foundation and trust building period, or the phase. And when SAP first became our customer in 2008, the biggest challenge was proving that mission critical ERP systems could run reliably in the cloud. Together, we achieved the first certification of SAP systems on AWS in 2012, solving the fundamental trust and reliability concerns that were holding back against the cloud adoption. In 2013 to 2017, it was all about scaling and building the expertise. So as more customers wanted to move to the cloud, the challenge became finding skilled partners who understand both SAP and AWS. We launched the AWS Partner Network SAP Competency Program in 2013, which allowed us to create a mature partner network that could help customers with digital transformations, managed services, and even data analytics. 2017 to 2020 was all about simplifying migrations. Customers' biggest pain point was the complexity of SAP migrations. We responded with innovations like AWS Launch Wizard for SAP that was launched in 2020, and then which automated deployments and reduced what used to take weeks down to hours. We also introduced the AWS Backend Agent for SAP HANA, solving backup and recovery challenges that were keeping customers awake at night and made 24 terabyte high memory instances available. Between 2021 and 2022, we started seeing accelerating in modernization journey. As customers faced pressures to modernize legacy systems, we launched Well-Architected Lens for SAP. We introduced tools like AWS Migration Hub Orchestrator and enabled bi-directional data flows between SAP applications and AWS Data Lake services. This solved the challenge of getting value from SAP data for AI and analytics. 2023 to present, as Andrew highlighted, it's all about AI-powered innovation and data unification. Today's challenge is leveraging generative AI with enterprise data while breaking down data silos. Our AI co-innovation program launched in 2025 helps partners develop AI solutions that address real-time business challenges like supply chain complexity using your SAP data as the foundation. At SAP Sapphire in 2025, SAP announced the SAP Business Data Cloud that addresses the critical challenge of fragmented data across disparate systems. SAP Business Data Cloud centralizes SAP and third-party data into curated data products that are readily consumable for analytics and AI, solving exactly the data silo problem that Andrew highlighted earlier. AWS is the only cloud provider with most number of regions where SAP BDC is available. Each innovation wasn't just about the technology. It was about solving real problems customers like you brought to us. Companies like Origin Energy reduced their data center architecture costs by 30%, while Zalando integrated SAP with 36 different AWS services to improve their customer service. That's the power of working backwards from customer needs. Andrew, can you move to the next slide? So why does SAP trust AWS? I'll summarize this with three major reasons. Number one is platform trust. SAP runs their most critical services on AWS, be it Rise with SAP, Grow with SAP, SAP Concur, and SAP Customer Experience. When SAP launched their Business Data Cloud, they chose AWS exclusively. 100% of SAP Business Technology Platform services are available on AWS compared to other cloud service providers. And both SAP Cloud ERP and SAP BTP are now available on AWS Marketplace. The second reason I would summarize under is the innovation power. For example, Joule, SAP's AI assistant, is integrated with solutions that can run on AWS infrastructure and leverages AWS services like Amazon Bedrock through the SAP AI Core platform. Based on SAP's success with AWS Graviton 3, SAP is expanding Graviton use across SAP BTP, SAP DataSphere, SAP Analytics Cloud, and SAP Cloud ALM. The third other major reason would be the proven performance. We were the first cloud to offer SAP certified 32 terabyte HANA instances. SAP achieved 35% performance improvements running HANA Cloud on our Graviton processors. And our Nitro system delivers top HANA high memory performance. Looking forward, SAP plans to use AWS Tridanium and Inferentia chips, our purpose-built AI chips, for training and deploying future SAP business AI offerings. This demonstrates SAP's confidence in AWS as their platform for next-generation AI innovation. If SAP trusts AWS with their own mission-critical operations and AI future, you can be confident we'll deliver for your SAP journey too. Next slide, Andrew. And now here we talk about how SAP customers trust AWS to support their mission-critical applications. It's because of Amazon's operational experience. Thousands of SAP customers trust AWS because we understand enterprise operations at scale. At Amazon, we operate one of the world's largest e-commerce platforms, handling billions of transactions and deliveries globally. But more importantly, we've been supporting SAP in the cloud longer than anyone. 17 plus years of real world experience. Companies like NG, like AIG, and Sumitomo Chemical have successfully deployed SAP solutions on AWS, experiencing reduced infrastructure costs and improved processing times. We are not just a cloud provider, we are your partner in SAP success. Most comprehensive and broadly adopted cloud. We at AWS offer 200 plus services from data centers worldwide. We offer the world's most secure, extensive, and reliable global cloud infrastructure with millions of active customers. We offer 60% more services than other cloud providers. And to help our millions of customers accelerate their transformation in the cloud, we have over 100,000 partners across 150 plus countries who assist with migrations, offer solutions, and more. Andrew, next slide. So what I want to summarize is your choice of cloud provider is critically important for your long-term success. We are going to cover some of the key advantages AWS offers to you. Number one is reliability. You can protect yourself from disruption to mission-critical business processes by leveraging the world's most reliable cloud infrastructure from AWS. We deliver this reliability through more regions, multiple availability zones than any other provider. A recent IDC study found that SAP customers that migrated from legacy ERP systems and ran S/4HANA on AWS experienced 58% less productivity losses from unplanned outages versus their prior on-premises implementations. The second reason is performance. SAP chose to support SAP HANA Cloud with AWS Graviton processes. By migrating SAP HANA Cloud to AWS Graviton-based Amazon instances, SAP has seen up to 30% better compute performance with analytical workloads. And our Nitro systems delivers practically all server resources to your instances. The third would be security. AWS is the only cloud provider secure enough for the secret workloads. It supports 143 security standards and compliance certifications and has been powering SAP NS2, a secure SAP cloud, 3 times longer than any other cloud providers. Last, but the most crucial, is also sustainability. AWS is committed to sustainability through several initiatives, such as we continue to make progress towards net zero carbon by 2040, powering operations with 100% renewable energy. AWS infrastructure is up to 4.1 times more energy efficient than on-premises. Hence, when you operate on the AWS cloud, you can help lower your carbon footprint tremendously with up to 99% lower carbon footprint. Next slide, Andrew. As you can see, today, more than 7,000 active customers globally run SAP on AWS across every major industry segment. These aren't just migrations, they are transformations that deliver real business value. Companies across industries from energy to retail to healthcare to manufacturing are seeing dramatic improvements in operational efficiency, cost reduction, and processing times when they move their SAP workloads to AWS. The results speak for themselves. Faster response times, reduced infrastructure costs, and improved business agility that enables organizations to focus on innovation rather than infrastructure management. This brings us to why our partnership with Precisely is so powerful for your SAP modernization journey. When you combine AWS's proven cloud platform with Precisely specialized data expertise, you get the foundation for successful SAP transformation that delivers real business value. Now, let me turn it back to Andrew to dive deep into how Precisely Automate specifically addresses these SAP process automation changes.
No, thank you, Sneha. I'm always impressed whenever I hear all of the things that AWS does, and we are so grateful to be a partner with you on this journey. Just a few things more specifically around how Precisely overall, and I'll talk about Precisely overall in a minute, helps you through that modernization journey. We can help you with, as part of the AWS mainframe modernization, in terms of modernizing at scale, being able to move a lot of data. Our data integrity suite can help you gain that high integrity, high quality data you need. Engage One and Rapid CX on the customer data side, and then Precisely Automate, which is what we're going to talk about for the rest of the time. So just know there is a very tight partnership, as Sneha mentioned it, between Precisely and AWS, and a lot of different areas across your IT infrastructure and across your IT organization where we can work together. So let's talk a little bit more about Precisely Automate and get more specifically into kind of why automation within the SAP world can be so important, and also why Precisely Automate is really the company you want to partner with. We've been doing this for a long time. We've actually automated SAP processes for over 20 years. So we've got an intimate knowledge of how SAP processes work, how SAP data needs to be structured, and then that really the interdependence of process and data. I mean, you think about SAP itself kind of forces these two things together. You can't do process improvement without looking at the data that process creates and manages. You can't do data quality initiatives without looking at the processes that are creating and managing potentially bad data. So SAP really takes these two things and makes them so tightly locked that it's difficult to set them apart or break them apart. And this is an area where, again, we've been doing this for a very long time. So we very much understand that intimate relationship between SAP processes and SAP data. And that we know that as you go through that modernization, there are a number of hidden challenges. I mentioned the multiple user interfaces before, and the fact that you can have your users continue to work in a friendly interface, if you will. They can continue to work in Excel, or they can continue to work in business-friendly forms without ever having to know whether what they're actually working in or what is the data is being moved through is SAP GUI, Fiori, or the web GUI. Data transformation, the ability to deliver clean data into S4HANA as you migrate from ECC to S4HANA, with the combination of Automate Studio, which I'll talk about in a minute, and Precisely's Data 360 Analyze. Really, really great way to do that data transformation, especially when you've got things like custom transactions, because many of the standard SAP tools don't handle custom transactions well. I mean, SAP is pushing very hard for you to achieve a clean core strategy, and one of the things they don't want you to do is gum up the works, if you will, with a lot of customizations in S4HANA. I know that's been one of the big challenges with ECC, and is just the number of custom transactions and custom data and everything else and processes can become a burden on the system. So there's that big push for clean data, clean core, but you still may want to keep those custom processes. And that's one of the areas where Precisely Automate can help you. And overall, what does this do? Well, it helps you get to faster time to value. We are a no-code, low-code platform, which means often you're deploying it through citizen developers who live in the business. And we're big believers that citizen developers are a very powerful tool, because within your organization, they're often the ones who understand the process and understand the data better than anyone else. So you're not asking the team that knows their processes and knows their data to turn it over to an outside agent to be able to create or develop that automation strategy and that automated solution. Because of this, it can lead to lower TCO. It gives you greater flexibility. You know, we talked about business disruption. We had a lot of customers during the pandemic when they had those supply chain disruptions who were very had the agility using the Automate tools to be able to make the changes they needed, change suppliers, change routing, change addresses. In some cases, the most important thing was to be able to make net term changes for payments. You know, change 100,000 of your customers from net 30 to net 45. You can do that very quickly and very easily. And ultimately, what this can lead to is better business outcomes, higher data quality, tighter compliance, you know, lower risk, all those things that they were able to do. So some examples of where we have helped companies do this. There's an energy drinks company that went from a highly manual process. Basically, they did I'll try to think how to put this delicately. Every single one of their products, so you've probably seen them on the shelf. So every flavor of beverage lived in an Excel workbook. And generally, you had a product manager who owned the workbook, and then you had people who contributed to worksheets or columns within worksheets or cells within worksheets in that workbook. Very manual process. They did a deal with a large soft drinks manufacturer to go from being a regional player to being a global player, which meant they suddenly now had new supply chain that they had to create and manage. They had new customer organizations, they had new sales organizations, they had new plants, all kinds of stuff. They suddenly were dealing with different languages on their packaging and everything else. They automated that process using Automate Evolve, and were able to cut the time to market for brand new products virtually in half. They cut it by between 50 and 75%. Now, Again, think about it. Just cutting the time by automating the process is not unusual. Cutting the time in half while also expanding and increasing your complexity exponentially, that's pretty impressive. And that's the kind of power you can get from the Automate platform within SAP. 90% reduction in the cost and time to make changes to material records. This is a company that was doing, a company named Dorman. They do auto parts, essentially. And they had a subset of their parts that needed to have just a designation changed from being listed as manufactured to being listed as kitted. Now, this was going to affect things like bills of materials, routings, sales orders, all that kind of fun stuff. And to do that manually, they figured per 100 materials, it was going to cost them about $4,500, and it was going to take 60 to 75 hours worth of time. Now, what that meant was they were then going to have to go out, they were going to have to hire staff, they were going to have to train staff, and they don't just have 100 of these materials, they had tens of thousands of them. So what they were able to do is automate that process, and were able to do per 100 materials, same with that same staff they already had. They didn't have to go hire anybody, they didn't have to train anybody. They now could do 100 materials in 5 hours, cost them about $400. So huge savings in what a no-code, low-code platform can do for you. 97% reduction in the time needed to create and manage customer records. This company has 1.25 million B2B customers. They cut the time to create a customer record from 144 hours to 6. They went from 3 weeks worth of time, which in reality was about 3 months, down to 6 hours, so less than a week, or in some cases, less than a day. Huge amount of savings, not only in terms of time when you've got that many customers, but it increased their customer satisfaction significantly as well. So when a customer needed a change done to their record, it didn't take weeks or months, it took literally a day. And then the 87% reduction in the time needed to qualify new vendors and materials. This is a company that does mission critical alloys and castings for aerospace and medical industry. They were looking to cut the time, or they needed to find a way to streamline their vendor onboarding process. First of all, you have to qualify those vendors, you have to understand the vendors, the products, everything else. Took them about 2.5 years to do that manually. They cut that time to 3 months. So if you think about what that means for their customer conversations went from call me back in 2028 to call me back next quarter. So the fundamental change of the way they were able to do business looking at new products was just transformative for their business. So this is the kind of power that you can gain by automating some of these complex data intensive SAP processes. And how do you do this with Precisely Automate? Well, the Precisely Automate portfolio really consists of these 3 products. It consists of Studio, which is a desktop-based product that is perfect for mass data processes. So this is Excel to SAP, and you can use the full power of Excel, so macros, anything else you want to do with transformation there, by using Excel as that front end to manage SAP data. Now, this is an area where I mentioned earlier that if you've got multiple UIs, you've got users working in Excel, they just continue to work in Excel. Doesn't matter whether it's SAP GUI in the background, whether it's Fiori, whether it's GUI for HTML. Studio is a very powerful tool for that. Studio Manager gives you some server-side capabilities and a lot of license management, so you can schedule jobs, Studio jobs. You can oversee how your license management works. You can do a number of things in that way that streamline that. And then there's Evolve, which is our full form and workflow automation platform. So this is your business process automation platform for those complex data intensive SAP processes that often take a long time, like creating a customer, where you've got a lot of data that either needs to be input or needs to be reviewed or needs to be approved. And you've got a lot of different people throughout your organization involved in that. So streamlining with Evolve can be pretty effective way of affecting a lot of those big complex processes you've got. Now, you take all of this and you put it into the cloud, and it gives you a lot more, takes those advantages and takes them even further. Because you're able to optimize your IT infrastructure. You require fewer IT resources that are needed to support that automation solution and that automation solution environment. Improved reliability without the need for so much redundancy. centralized script management and distribution. So Studio tends to run on scripts, which can then be centralized, distributed, and also much more tightly regulated internally. So you have an audit trail, and it gives you the ability to track who's touching what data when, and who has the ability to input or affect SAP data. So we follow all of the SAP protocols as well. Again, citizen development teams, lower, more predictable capital costs, and because you're not having to use data center resources. And then overall, I mean, Sneha put this very well. When you're working with AWS, you're going to cut your carbon footprint because it is so much more efficient to work in the cloud. Now, how does this compare? If you've got customer managed, you're required to do all of these different things with either yourself or with your partners or however it works. When you're hosted through Precisely, so when you've got Automate hosted through AWS, all of these things are included. So it really simplifies and streamlines and eliminates a lot of that burden on your IT organization. So that's why we believe very strongly, I should say, in the power and the need for automation in the cloud and this whole move that people have to the cloud. We think it's very important, and we think it gives you a lot of flexibility and business benefits as you go forward, especially as you're going through that SAP modernization effort. So really quickly, just to wrap up, a couple of things that I want to say for next steps. Well, one thing I want to say, I know we talked in the promotion for this about demos. We ran into a couple of technical problems on demos, so unfortunately we don't have any available. However, in a minute I will point you to where you can find some. But for next steps, we definitely would like you to further explore Precisely Automate. We do have 30-day free trials of Automate Studio available through our website. So if you go there and go to the product page for Automate Studio, you can get hold of that and take a look at it and try it out. Automate Studio and Automate Evolve are both available in the AWS Marketplace. So if you've got AWS credits that you are looking to use or lose, definitely we would love to talk to you about using them for Automate. And the other thing you can do is really go to look at what AWS can do for you and your SAP implementation. As Sneha mentioned, there is a tremendous amount of opportunity for you to streamline your SAP operations, streamline your migration, and really help drive efficiencies across your business and across your organization. Sneha, anything you want to add to that, just as where we want people to go and what we want them to do?
Absolutely. I think AWS Marketplace is the right place that you could leverage. And then we also have on the AWS website all the partner programs and migration acceleration program that you could take a look into to really understand how partners like Precisely can help you all in the migration and modernization journey and what incentives and funding programs are available.
Wonderful. Before we get to questions, real quick, for those of you who aren't familiar with Precisely, we are the world's leader in data integrity. So we give you the unique combination of software, data, and strategic services to help you really understand how to get trusted data into your environment. So you get that the data that has the accuracy, consistency, and the context that you need to make confident business decisions. We've got about 12,000 customers worldwide. We're in over 90 of the Fortune 100. And on any given day, we've got about 2,700 employees. So obviously with that Fortune number, many of the largest brands in the world do trust us. Some of those ones that I mentioned are some of the largest brands in the world, and you would recognize them if they would let us mention their name. We also work with a lot of technology partners like AWS across the IT spectrum. So there's many opportunities for us to work in your environments with your partners and for you to work with us. And we would definitely love to talk to you further. If you want more information, you can go to precisely.com. I did mention there are demos available there. So if you go to the solution section for SAP Process Automation, you can find lots of demos, white papers, more information about what Precisely Automate can do for you. And I encourage you also just to look at the rest of what Precisely has to offer through things like our data integration services or our data integrity suite. So there is a lot there for you to find, as well as there is at aws.com. So highly recommend do your research, and we would love to talk to you further. So with that, Sneha, I just had a couple of quick questions. I'm actually going to do that. So it's just us. You talked a lot about kind of the support for SAP modernization. And I've talked to a number of customers that as they go through that modernization, it's not just SAP, it's other systems. So I know your team works beyond just SAP, as you mentioned earlier. So can you talk a little bit more about kind of what that engagement might look like and some of the activity that you have around that and how people can engage with you and with your team and with AWS as they look at their kind of total IT modernization?
Yeah, absolutely, Andrew. And it's also the reason why my team was established a few years ago to really help partners, customers in that whole consolidated approach of their migration and modernization journey. Because SAP rarely is moved in isolation. So companies have Oracle databases, they'll have Microsoft workloads, mainframe applications, VMware environments. It's like a whole network of systems and workloads. So what's really exciting is that we recently launched AWS Transform, which is a game changer for these complex migration scenarios. So AWS Transform, and my team is specialized in providing support for AWS Transform because it uses specialized agentic AI to automate the heavy lifting of migration and modernization projects. We're talking about delivering transformation projects up to 4 times faster than the traditional approaches. So the beauty of Transform is that it handles multiple workload types that often sit along the side of SAP systems, whether it's, again, VMware infrastructure, mainframe applications, .NET workloads. Transform uses AI agents to understand the dependencies, create intelligent migration plans, and then automate the execution. In some cases, like, for example, VMware migrations, we're seeing projects complete up to 80 times faster than manual approaches. So we're not doing this in isolation. I also mentioned about, referring to Migration Acceleration Program or MAP 2.0. This program provides funding and expertise to support these transformations. Plus, with, again, over 100,000 partners globally that, our team supports who specialize in different migration scenarios, customers get that comprehensive support across their entire application portfolio.
Yeah. Wished I'd known that a year ago when I was talking to the guy who had the 8 systems that he had to move, because he, in addition to that, he also had somewhere between 30 and 40 non-SAP systems that they were migrating all of that data into HANA. And I thought that was very interesting. And that was, again, one of their big challenges they had to figure out. One of the other things you mentioned is BDC. And what SAP has historically been very difficult to integrate the data with other systems. It's just, it's kind of been a bit of a walled garden. And it feels like BDC was created to give people an entry gate into SAP data. How is your team, or is your team engaged in some of that, kind of helping companies integrate through BDC? And what does that mean? Do you feel it means for enterprises as they move forward?
Yeah, I think SAP Business Data Cloud, the BDC, actually is a really significant development for us. And I think it validates also the deep partnership we built with SAP over the past 17 years. The fact that also SAP chose to launch BDC on AWS first speaks volumes about the trust and the technical capabilities we've demonstrated. So the team was extremely engaged on this launch, and we did this at the Sapphire. And this isn't just about hosting, Andrew. It's about SAP recognizing that AWS has the infrastructure, the security, and innovation they need for the next generation data platform. Like BDC is really a catalyst. It's helping customers see AWS not just as a place to run their existing SAP workloads, but as a platform for transformation. So when customers adopt BDC on AWS, they're getting access to unified data across their SAP landscape, which opens up entirely new possibilities for analytics, AI, and business processes, automation. So that's sort of the continuous conversation that the teams are having today. And what's particularly exciting is how this complements solutions like what Precisely offers. BDC helps break down data silos within the SAP environments. And when you combine that with, your Precisely's capabilities for data integrity and automation across multiple systems, customers then get a truly comprehensive data foundation.
Yeah.
That's what enables, customers to move from just migrating to the cloud to actually transforming how they operate and compute. And like looking at the track record, right? Like we also showed this previously, like over 7,000 SAP customers globally, 100% of RISE on AWS regions offering premier SLAs, being the first cloud provider to offer a 32 terabyte virtualized instance with standard SAP certification for both OLTP and OLAP workloads. Like BDC is really that next chapter in a partnership that's, been delivering innovation for nearly 2 decades.
Yeah. I think it's fascinating where I think that's going. That was one of those things when I first heard about it. I'm like, that seems like an interesting opportunity for them and for us. Because it does, like I said, it provides an entryway, and especially for on the automate side of things. We are looking at, in the fairly near future, and I can't talk too much about this, but being able to go beyond just SAP automation and be able to automate other cloud-based systems as easily and as cleanly as we do for SAP, and then being able to integrate through things like BDC. So really good, I think, setup for the future, and I think we're all feeling kind of optimistic about what that looks like. I think we're getting close on time. But I very much appreciate your time, and I very much appreciate you joining us. And for our audience, very much thank you. I know your time is valuable, and we definitely appreciate that you have chosen to spend it with us. Sneha, do you have any final thoughts before we completely sign off?
No, thank you so much, Andrew, for getting us together. It was a great opportunity, and I'm really looking forward for our partnership and how we help customers transform, their migration and modernization journey on AWS.
Definitely. Well, thank you very much, and I hope everyone has a happy and healthy day. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.